MC is in the house. What's up, folks? My name is Justin Garcia, also known as Master Chim, and welcome to the Warrior Stream. I am here every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time, taking a topic, deep diving, having a good time while doing it. I appreciate you guys being here. What is going on with this thing? I think audio should be fine. Do me a favor, guys. Just give me some feedback. Let me know that you could hear me, and I'm pretty sure you could see me. Jesse, what's going on, brother man? Good to see you. Corey, what's up, brother man? Aaron, good to see you. Thank you, Corey. Appreciate that. Just saw that. I don't know why on my screen this is so small here. I don't fucking know. What are you going to do? Frank the Killer, what's up, brother man? Good to see you. All right. So, whatever. I can't really see what the hell's happening here. I don't know why this is so goddamn. This is frustrating. I get frustrated over stuff way too easily sometimes. And this is definitely it. Focus, Justin. Focus. Stop yelling at the fucking computer. All right. You guys can see me and hear me, so we're all good to go. Fuck this technology. Anyway, speaking of technology, if you guys aren't getting my emails, you're fucking up. You got to go to masterchimletter.com. I send an email every day. I have a lot of fun with the emails. Sometimes I get a little deeper on stuff than others. But one of the great things about the emails is when you're subscribed to the email list and you opt in and everything, I could be as open as I want on topics. Sometimes even the emails, if I'm a little too, we could say, aggressive and direct with how I word things, sometimes your own email provider will filter my stuff out. And, it's nothing like, corporations and the government protecting you from getting what you want, but this is what we're dealing with. So it is what you make of it. Right. So all that being said, today's show was the kind of show that I like because it was sort of organically made. And I just wanted to talk about a couple of things, and I have a bunch of listed stuff that I could do. I sometimes tend to, when I'm brainstorming about something, it's just easy to sort of make those lists in your head or, jotting them down somewhere. And today I have a bunch of talking points or things, maxims almost that I can cover to really illustrate the ideas that I want to share. But it all started when I saw this video called, what the hell is it? It's basically a bear fight. It's two grizzly bears, I think up in Alaska, probably. I mean, I just assume all grizzly bear fights happen in Alaska. It could just as easily be somewhere else, but it is a 17-minute bear fight. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but a 17-minute bear fight is pretty serious. There's no sound. I should say there's no sound effects. There's not much that you're hearing because it's like from across a river that you're watching this. But it is just incredible. And I'll leave a link in the description. I should have done that. I'll do that later on. But basically, you guys, I think, will benefit significantly by watching this video. But anyway, I was watching this video, and one of the things that endeared me to it was this just real world feedback of like, yeah, that's how life is. That's what nature is. Everything else is artificial. When you look at, I think it starts off with one of the bears mating on a female bear, and then the other male shows up, and I guess that was one of his girls, or that's his property, or like his land or territory, etc. And the guy stops humping and starts fighting, and a 17-minute fight ensues. And it is as brutal as you would think. And neither one wants to give up. That's why, it's lasting 17 minutes. Who knows what's at stake? I'm certainly not a bear expert, so forgive any ignorance concerning the bears specifically, but more generally for our purposes, you get to see that there is no intervention other than physics. That is what all of us would benefit from in terms of realization, understanding that physics are the only rules we're playing by right now. Everything else is added on top of that. Any rule that you think that you're supposed to abide by is a rule that is not only artificial, but it's one that you are voluntarily agreeing with and abiding by. I think, what's up, Big Jack? Jamie, what's up, brother, man? Good to see you guys. I think most people today, they live in artificial environments. They live in artificial cities and towns, and they work in companies which are artificial tribes, and they do all these things, and there is a sort of consistency provided by this artificial environment that integrates and sort of seeps into their relationship, the individual's relationship with reality, to the point where they develop a dysfunctional level of certainty with all of these things. I was on one of my mastermind calls today, and one of the guys in my group, great call this morning, got me fired up. But one of the guys in my group has a company that he sells a product. And I remember bringing up the point and, the context of it not really being relevant, but bringing up a point that he would be better off understanding. And this guy is already tracking this. I was really saying it out loud just to reiterate to him and maybe share it to others in the group who may not be tracking this. But I told him it would be better if he didn't build his whole business based on one brand of a product controlled by people who have their own interests and who will not show him one bit of loyalty for his mission if it offsets from theirs. And I think, when you see people get fired unexpectedly and their whole lives get thrown upside down, a couple of years ago when YouTube, which apparently is being more forgiving now, my boy Sam Hyde is killing it. Everybody's making money off of Nick Fuentes, but I don't think Nick Fuentes can have a channel yet, but a bunch of channels are killing it off of his content. But back in the day, there were a bunch of people that got thrown off of YouTube. And their entire livelihood was connected to YouTube, the ability to generate ad revenue on YouTube. And the writing was on the wall way before that hammer dropped on them. In 2016, 17, I had first gotten demonetized and I didn't understand what was happening to the traffic. It was being throttled. And I said, all right, like, what are you doing? And I sort of snapped out of the dream that I found myself in, where it was like, what am I, like, I know this is not going to last. I know that, especially not, playing the game the way I play it, we're not always, fan favorites. So there are always going to be people who will look to silence us. And it doesn't have to be even a political reason. It's just financially. If they want certain types of ads and certain types of content doesn't connect with those ads and those people that are paying for those ads, they'll get rid of this content and find content that the advertisers like. It's just, it's not a mystery. It's not some conspiracy. It's literally the way things work. It's tribalnomics. It's overlap, offset. Like, are we a mutualistic alliance or a parasitic alliance? And anyway, the idea of it is you have people who live in these artificial environments who think, that this artificial environment at some point is natural to the point where it's reliable to the point where they feel entitled to it. They start saying silly shit like, healthcare is a human right, and shit like that. Like, well, somebody's got to give you that. Somebody's got to train to be able to give you that. Like, there's a whole bunch of people involved, pretty tyrannical to say shit like that. But that's the thing when you are living with an identity that artificial environments have sort of permeated into the core of. It's like, yeah, you tend to think tyrannically and think you're right on top of it and think, well, this is fair. This is expected. And I am owed this by people. And that sort of thinking, it'll work so long as you are in that environment and being protected by the environment. The easy example that I've used in the past is seeing people get hit in the face for the first time, right? I've punched a lot of people in the face that I think, if I had to guess, yeah, it was the first time they ever got punched in the face. And I make the point that a very common reaction that I've gotten over the years. And I, like, mind you, this is like in my teens and 20s. Like, I don't mean I walk around punching people in the fucking face at, the local supermarket. But I'd hit them and they'd get punched in the face. And the first thing they would do was sort of disconnect from me, who's the actual threat. And they would sit there and they would like look and see if they're bleeding. And they would sit there in disbelief as if the TV show they were watching, one of the characters came in and touched them. And it's like that was reality breaking the fourth wall of their perception of it. When you look at, the bear fight I was talking about, you have an individual watching this. You can have an individual watching this, and he will become confused. He will become uncomfortable. He may even get to the point where he complains about the video or, says stupid shit like that. And I didn't check the comments to see if this is there, but you'll have people that, oh, this shouldn't be there, or this should be rated so kids don't see it. Like all of these things that really amount to, this is too real for my reality. Like people have their truth nowadays, like they have their reality nowadays. So you have this relationship with nature that exists, whether you realize it or not. And if you're not coming into contact with it, it's just because there's an artificial environment that is being maintained around you, right? And insulating you from it. Much the same way, I use the aquarium, metaphor, much the same way the fish in an aquarium are protected from the surroundings. And they have an environment that's completely artificially generated by whoever made the aquarium, whoever's maintaining the aquarium. And a lot of times these fish, not only do they become masters of their aquarium, but they also, if you were to take them, put them back where they originally came from, they would, be completely unable to survive, to thrive. So all these things, that people are susceptible to, vulnerable to, they're also completely unaware of most of the time, and so I got a list of stuff, of points I want to talk about. And you're on Saxa. What's up, darling? Good to see you. Jamie writes, people think that nature doesn't move the goalpost. Nature moves the goalpost and then feeds as we squeal. And you're absolutely right. And you'll see this all the time. I remember the old movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? Like the old one from the 70s or 80s, early 80s, whatever it was, the old one. There's a point in the beginning where the character Leatherface like takes like a person, I think it was a teenage girl or something, like puts her on a meat hook and hangs her like a fucking jacket. Like you have a coat hook, like it's fucking, here's a girl hook, and just puts her on it. And the just complete violent nature of it, the sort of visceral imagery of there not being one care in the world that he experienced while doing it. It was so matter of fact. It's much the way we see animals in nature when they're doing the things that they do. It's us that has the problem. We're the ones that have the problem. We're the ones that we see it as something other than what it is. All of that stuff was here way before our opinions of it ever surfaced, right? So that being said, I think I could just share this, right? So I'm going to share this list and we'll just go over it. I posted this on my Mastermind group. And rather than write everything down, I'm just going to share. Let's see if this works. Add to the stage. Bam. I think that works, right? Just make it bigger. How do I make it bigger? No, that doesn't make it bigger. This? No, that makes it smaller. Give me a second here, guys. I'm figuring this shit out on the fly. Is that good? Is that good? No, that makes it small. All right, just give me a second. I promise. I can be so picky about shit that doesn't matter. You see, I don't mind the one with the camera at the bottom, but it doesn't make the picture any fucking bigger. So it's like, maybe I can make it bigger if I change. No, I'm not fucking with that other thing. I'll wind up ruining it. What do you guys think? Give me some feedback. Should I do camera on the bottom or camera in the middle or split screen? Those are the options. Somebody give me some feedback here. Split screen, camera in the middle, or camera on the bottom. Jamie says bottom. I need at least 3 votes. At least 3. If I get 2, I'll make a vote, but I prefer you guys, since you're the guys that have to watch it. No matter what it looks like, I'm fucking annoyed, so it doesn't matter. All right, Jesse says split. Frank says middle. Aaron says bottom. But she's also married to Jamie, so I don't know. This is why women shouldn't vote. No, I'm just kidding. Yard Sax says split. Okay, so we have 2 for bottom, 2 for split, 1 for middle, and split. Corey says split. All right, split it is. Let's go to split. Which one's that again? Bam. All right, split. So here we go. All right, we're moving, folks. I appreciate your participation. So this is a post. This is my mastermind group. I just clicked on a post. So I made this, I think, yesterday or 22 hours ago. And this was watching this, and you could look down here, and it says not an official list, just sharing some thoughts inspired by the attached video. Here's the video here you could see. And if you look at the video credit, Vanessa Obrin, her YouTube, just look that up. It's a 17-minute bear fight, so check it out. I couldn't embed it on the YouTube thing, so gave her the vid credit, whatever. Anyway, so here's the list. And this is just me, freestyling. There are 1 or 2 here that I had written before, but just seemed appropriate. So I'm going to go over it. You guys can see the whole list. So let's make this not as formal as my lists usually are. Number 1, if you can't take what you want, create enough value to trade for it. I see this with men who don't know how to maintain their businesses, men who can't get a girlfriend, men who, they act a lot tougher than they should. I'll give an example of myself. When I was growing up, I was violent. I was quick to punch somebody in the face. It was the law of the land, right? Like the type of personality I was in the environment I was in, like those were the formulas that developed. I wasn't going to let somebody bully me. Nobody was going to take my shit. Nobody was going to sun me, is the phrase, that we used. But if I'm going to be that way in that environment where there are a lot of predatory, personalities walking around, I have to be capable. I have to be able to, to execute violence when necessary. And that's what I did right up until I got to the point where I got locked up. Why? Because I was still trying to create outcomes with those formulas and scenarios that was no longer the best idea. So over the years, it's like, yeah, you learn how to be a little bit more persuasive. You learn that, before I've had a lot of students, I've used this as a side example, a lot of students that have left under less than ideal terms. And many of them at some point in the future came back to me, via email or social media, whatever. I was like, hey, I want to come back. I fucked up, this and that. And they always had this same sentiment. I left for the wrong reasons. My life is worse off than it was when I was there. So let me back in so my life can improve. And at no point did they ever consider the other side of the equation, right? Me, the school, the students, their teammates. There was never a, hey, I kind of left a debt. I'm here to repay it in full with interest, figuratively speaking. When an individual doesn't know how to create value for other people, he'll always look at them as resources for himself. And he'll never really develop that sort of contextual wisdom that transcends our ability to rationalize things, right? One of the things you'll see with adolescents is they tend to over rationalize. Teenage boys, this is like Teenage Boy 101. They think they figured some things out. And because they figured some things out, they think they figured it all out because they don't understand what else there is to figure out. So their ignorance of that sort of convinces themselves that they figured everything out, because they know everything at stake here and they figured it all out. So I know everything. That's the formula for the teenage boy who knows everything. When you actually realize there are some things that we're never going to be strong enough to take, they're going to be things that are too complex or too disconnected to fully understand and comprehend. And it just means that having a approach to creating value in order to receive value is going to cover those bases and those times where we're not strong enough to take it and we're not smart enough to figure it out. Right? So if you can't take what you want, create enough value to trade for it, obviously, a lot of these maxims that I like to meditate on are intended to be a lot more, universal in application than they may appear, right? So the next one, if you can't kill your enemy, at least be strong enough so that he doesn't kill you. So there's a caveat here. The caveat is you're somebody who has adopted a lifestyle, a philosophy of self-improvement, of self-becoming, of self-overcoming. Nietzsche says, become who you are. The idea being you're in your own way and you spend a lifetime trying to get out of it. Well, if that is you and you are somebody who does that, then yeah, if you have an enemy that's trying to kill you, bide your time. At least be strong enough to bide your time. Now, what's the purpose of saying that? Because to some people, it might be, well, that's obvious. Fight as hard as you can, live to fight another day, whatever the case is. Well, the thing is, some people, they opt out in those scenarios. They have enemies, and the enemy could be a person. It could be a situation. Let's apply it as liberally as our imaginations can think of. But whatever they perceive to be the enemy, if they're not strong enough to kill it, to overcome it, a lot of people just say, well, what's the point of it all? I might as well. And it's obviously a very, permanent conclusion to a temporary obstacle. And that was the thought process behind the number 2 maxim. Number 3, the best strategy in a fight should be assessed right now. On Tom Kyer, I give credit to sharing a quote that I always forget the fucking words, the verbatim of it. But the idea is, in an actual fight, you're never going to be as good as you are right now. That might be the quote. I might have gotten it right for once. But the idea, and this is his concept that he shared with me, which he's absolutely right. There's a tendency sometimes in a fight, in a conflict, to prolong it, to sort of wait, to be gun shy, literally, figuratively, because the next step represents a certain level of discomfort. And we have to sort of manage our discomfort before we take the step. Well, one of the things to help us do that on a large scale or a consistent scale maybe, is this is as good as we're going to be. So if we're going to do it, we should do it right now. Because fast forward a couple of beats in time, we're going to be a little less than we are right now. Right? So just the same, the intent behind this is the best strategy in a fight should be assessed right now. Not what we had assessed before, because not only, it's the whole, who is it? Tecumseh, a man never steps in the river twice. Like, well, I could think of something, maybe I'll ChatGPT, generate one for fighting, where it's never the same fight, he's never the same man, that sort of the thing. But the idea of it is there should be some urgency. We should be in the moment, and there should be some urgency when figuring out what it is we're going to do. Because the snapshot of reality that we've built a strategy behind has already passed, right? It's a frame in a movie, and we're a couple of 1,000 frames ahead already. Next, number 4, in nature, feelings increase your potential for power, but they also expose you to danger and weakness. I've said, years ago, emotion is the spice of life. We don't want to be emotional, but it doesn't mean we don't get to leverage and utilize emotion. And in this, I remember watching the bear fight video, and there isn't a lot of emotional reaction to what's going on. They're just sitting there and they're fighting to the death, and they'll do whatever they need to do. And there's, I think, a tendency, or at least I could see, somebody saying, well, it's better to be like that. Like emotions are always weakness. Well, there is a vulnerability in emotion. In my 3 Roads manifesto, I talk about, the offset, right? And I don't want to make this too fucking esoteric, but the idea of it is, if we control everything, we know everything. If we know everything, there's no reason to continue. Alan Watts says, to know the future is to make the future the past. He has a talk on, if there was a God who knew everything, even he would need to create a button that said surprise on it, because he would need to be surprised, or else what's the point? I think that emotion is the level of preference, primal preference, that drives us towards one thing over another. And I don't argue preference with people. It's the whole ice cream, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Like, 2 people could have different favorites of ice cream in terms of flavor and both be right, because they're talking about preference. They're talking about something that is inherently subjective. Well, emotions allow us to pursue those individualized, customized experiences. But there is vulnerability there, right? I don't know if it's from Shakespeare. If I had Pat here, he'd tell me, to love, it's better to have loved and lost than to never have loved before, something like that. And the idea of it is, just because you lost it doesn't mean it wasn't worth pursuing, or that having it for however long you had it wasn't worth it, and that's what I mean by this. Feelings really have the ability to drive us, in certain directions, to pursue our own level of power. But we have to understand that sometimes we're going to expose ourselves to danger and weakness as a result, right? So that's number 4. Aaron, what'd you write here? I found one from her entitled Epic Bear Fight Extend. Yes, that's it. Oh no, 32 minutes. No, I didn't see that one. I saw the 17-minute one. Apparently there's an even bigger one. Apparently I saw like the highlight film that's only 17 minutes. Oh man, awesome. All right, yeah, so you guys can check that out. Number 5, the emotional suffer physically when attacked emotionally. So this is, obviously thinking of number 4. Number 5 is the next step in that process I was on mentally. And the idea of having that vulnerability is there is a physical cost to be set. Like when you are emotionally vulnerable, just because you are attacked emotionally doesn't mean the only thing that hurts are your feelings, right? Thinking about, the stress symptoms that people experience, and how we have a dysfunctional relationship with, the sympathetic nervous system and the fight or flight, adrenaline. We're ready to survive. We're ready to hunt. We're ready to fight. Whatever it is, we have this sort of enhanced version of us that is activated with our sympathetic nervous system. In Robert Sapolsky's Why Zebras Don't Have Ulcers, he talks about what's the title of the book based on? This idea of a zebra grazing in the field, seeing a predator, a lion, turning on their super pursuit mode, right? They're out of there. And that's a Knight Rider reference, by the way, from the 80s. Having the lion chase them. And as soon as they're safely away from the lion, sort of deactivating that and going right back to grazing. And being able to do that throughout the day without having a nervous fucking breakdown. Like, how does that happen? Like, imagine you were in your house and somebody broke in the middle of the night and you had to fend them off or avoid them. And then eventually they leave when the cops come. And it happens 2-3 times a night. Like, you would move, you wouldn't be able to sleep, you'd have a fucking nervous breakdown. Like, how do animals not do that? It's because they turn that system on, then the parasympathetic system turns it off, right? So it's like emergency mode and, deactivate the emergency mode. Well, when people are emotional, they tend to blur those lines. They can imagine, I had the talk years ago in my academy, Imaginary Lions. You could look it up on YouTube. I'm sure the talk's there. And this is exactly what it is. It's people that are emotional, they perceive threats so thoroughly, so sincerely, so, powerfully, that they will physically start wearing the symptoms, of it. So that's number 5. Number 6, if you want it, somebody else probably does too. So be prepared to defend it, share it, lose it, or die for it once you get it. And there are good reasons for each. So when you look at every single thing here, I don't think you guys can't see my my cursor. I should know that. So I stopped using it to indicate where I'm looking at, right? So if you look, where am I? No, it'd be here. Where am I? Right. Number 6, they're right there. All right. You should be prepared to defend it, share it, lose it, or die for it. So defend it. What is that? Somebody goes to take your shit, you should be able to keep your shit. I watched that show Alone, right? Great show. I just watched season 7. It's the only season I watched. I'm going to watch the other ones now. And one of the things about, these people, they're out in the wilderness by themselves. They get a bunch of fish, or one guy killed a muskox, and he's got all this meat and everything. Well, the next phase of acquiring it is like, well, how the fuck am I going to not only preserve it, but protect it? Because something's going to come looking for it. Maybe it's a bear, maybe it's a bunch of mice, like who knows? How do I protect it? And they had to sort of solve those problems. So you got to be prepared to defend it, because if it's valuable to you, it's probably valuable to somebody else. And if you wanted to get it at one point, they want to get it right now, but you happen to have it. So being able to defend it is something. Share it. Sometimes, people understand that we have to make this work because not one of us can have all of it. And to be productive moving forward, we need to figure that out. Other people, they want to split the baby. They're like, nope, I don't give a fuck. If I can't have it, nobody can. Or if I can't have it all, like nobody's going to have it. There's an idea of, if we're going to be driving ourselves to build alliances, and we all should, our identity in the 3 roads, I talk about, how we start with the self, and then we build tribe on top of that, and then value is the next road. You need to align, your tribe and your people to who you are, because that is the most effective route to get to the value that will sustain you. Well, sharing stuff is something that people need to sort of build a relationship with. The person who never wants to share is the person who's very insecure. You look at resource guarding and like dogs. It's like, why are they growling and making the faces when somebody gets close to them when they're eating, or close to their favorite toy, or close to their owner, or whatever? It's like they think in their mind that this is going to be taken away, and they're going to start doing something to make sure that doesn't happen. Sharing, learning how to share from the beginning, is something that'll prevent a dog from adopting those things. Sort of segues into the next one, lose it. Well, you should prepare to lose something when you have, because listen, we're not the only ones in control here, right? And this could be your favorite car breaks down, your picnic gets rained on, your girlfriend leaves you, and it's a shock. You walk into work tomorrow, you get fired. Like, you should be prepared to lose anything that you've acquired at one point. Why? Because you're not the only one here. You're not the only one in control, right? And some of these factors that will affect you directly, you don't have any say in the matter. You don't have a seat at the table. So we have to be able to understand that, right? And then finally, I put die for it once you get it. And like, listen, there are some things that are more important in life, and everybody's got to determine what those things are for themselves. But to say that there is no reason, and that, being able to live another day is more important than anything, I think that at least most people that watch my stuff know that ain't true, right? So that was that one. Let's get to number 7. Feeling better is not the same as being better, doing better, or getting better, right? If you have some sort of emotional vulnerability that is affected, right, and it is compounding the intensity of an obstacle, the intensity of a problem. It's like you make a bad situation worse. You lose your job and then you become depressed. It's like, well, fuck, now we got two problems, right? Now we got to get you undepressed and then we got to get you a job. It would help if you didn't get depressed, right? Then we don't have one problem. Feeling better means that, you basically you climbed out of the ditch that you dug for yourself. Being better is actually being more capable, being in a more capable state. And that could be an emotionally more capable state. It could be a better trained, or maybe a physically capable, state or enhanced state. That's what being better is. That guy is a better player than him. They don't have to be playing to make that assessment based on their capabilities and your experience of knowing who they are. So you want to be better, right? Always be better. Doing better is the being better in action now. He's now more capable, right? Like, guy learned how to use a chainsaw, didn't know how to use a chainsaw, and learned how to use a chainsaw. That's him being better, right? So now he's better. Now he's doing better. He's actually doing the thing as, compared to the alternatives, right? So he's being better, he's doing better. And finally, he's getting better. And a lot of these terms, again, I'm a stickler for these concepts just to make sense of them in my head. But getting better, people often conflate with the other two. Getting better is the outcome, right? So it's the initial state and capability, it's the action, and it's the outcome. All of those versions of better are always going to outweigh feeling better, which is, again, you successfully climbing out of the ditch you dug for yourself. My man Willie, what up? Good to see you, brother, man. Number 8, when you die, let it be for your reason, not your reaction. And I probably could have capitalized reason there. But that was the mindset. It's like, don't react and find yourself in a situation that if you had a moment to think about it, you wouldn't want to be in. You don't want to be that guy. The idiots, you see videos now all the time, 2 guys arguing over nothing, and one of them getting shot. It's like, all right, I guess that's a way to die, making anybody who's ever invested in you lose their investment, wholesale because of some emotional reaction to something. It's not to say that there isn't a reason to die right then and there in a situation that just organically, developed, but let it be because you have a protocol, you have a position that is now just being applied, not one that is cathartically being driven. He made me feel this way, so I'll make him feel that way. I just saw the I don't know if you guys are aware of the Rampage Jackson, his son, put some pro wrestler in the hospital. And I just watched I tried to find a video that just showed everything because I didn't want to I don't care, but I think it's just relevant to the things that I talk about. So I wanted to know. And he was, I think he was shamed or he was embarrassed. He was, lost face by one of these pro wrestlers, smashing him in the head with a fucking beer can or soda can or something. And he didn't swing on the dude right there. When it happened, I don't know if you guys are aware of it. I'm not going to put links or anything. You can go look it up if you want. But basically, he's backstage at this or outside with the wrestlers, one of his buddies wrestling, pro wrestling. And he's just hanging out. It's Rampage's son, so a lot of people will find that cool. Probably gets him, through certain doors and stuff. But he's hanging out, and one of the other wrestlers there, who, again, I think was drunk, saw the cameras and decided to do what wrestlers do, which is, I guess, always make a fucking spectacle of yourself, right? So he's like, oh, I remember going, this guy, I'm watching this video, and he hit him in the head with a beer can or soda can, it's smashed, whatever. And I remember, so one of the wrestlers looked at the guy and was like, what are you doing? He's not working. He's not a wrestler. And then it's like, well, wait a minute. Is this shit that just wrestlers do? Like you're just allowed to fucking smash people in the heads with cans? So I don't understand that culture, obviously, but there was something to be said for. They thought it would be normal if the guy was a wrestler. Rampage's son wasn't a wrestler. So he got smacked in the head. And he turned around and, you know, Rampage's son, I think, fights MMA. He's physically capable. But he had the ability to hook off on this dude right there, and he didn't. So he got, you know, you could tell he was pissed, but they talked it out. They even, I think, shook on it at one point. Eventually, it got to the point, and the guy was like, listen, I'm sorry. I thought you were working. I didn't mean anything. The guy was sincerely apologetic, or at least it sounded sincere when they showed the video of it. And they said, I guess in true wrestling form and fashion, that, hey, I tell you what, why don't we just work this in to the show later? And during his, you know, bout, his match, whatever, you, Rampage's son, go in and disrupt it. And, you know, I don't know, like, I don't know how these things work. So there's probably a lot of why this makes sense that I don't get, but okay, he decides to do it. And the time from that point to the time where he got in the ring later on during the pro wrestling show to interrupt the guy's match, he was on social media getting gaslit by all the people that were like watching his live stream. I think the whole thing was live. Like it was, and he was, you know, getting riled up like the internet will do every single time. They don't give a fuck about you. They just want to be entertained. And then they'll forget about it, you know, as soon as you're done with it. Oh, remember that guy? Yeah, like they don't give a fuck, but people still, again, give these strangers seats at the table. So he got so amped up that when he went into the match later on, he slammed the dude like I guess he's not a trained wrestler. There's a way you slam him so the guy doesn't bang his head. You'll see like a cradle, like they'll grab the guy's shoulder, they'll grab, you know, in the groin, they'll lift them up and they'll slam him. But the arm that's around the shoulder sort of protects the back of the head from hitting. Like, I know that, right? But he grabbed him up like his fucking Rampage Jackson style, like a double leg up, and like unfolded his body onto the mat. So the last thing to whip is the head. And I think he stunned the guy when he slammed him like that, but then gets on top and then fucking starts pummeling him to death. The guy didn't die, but not for a lack of fucking effort. And then the wrestlers go from that awkward, hey, is this what we planned? Or, hey, this isn't right, to, hey, get him the fuck off of him. And then he's hitting other fucking people. And all because he lost his shit. I get it. I've been there when I was 15, 14 fucking years old. It's a grown fucking man. Like, get a fucking grip on yourself. But bad look, man. Bad look. And I think that, you know, where was I? Number 7 and number 8. Like, you want reasons. You want reasons, not reactions. You want actions and reasons, not reactions and problems, right? But it was pretty fucking despicable, you know. What do we say here? Jesse says it pisses me off that he accepted apology. Right, you know. Corey writes, there were multiple apologies. Raja shook his hand and everything seemed fine until he was sitting right ringside getting trolled by his live stream chat. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, you get it. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you fucked up. Rampage, you know, I'm sure is in a rough spot now because, I mean, Rampage always struck me as somebody who kept it real. And I'm pretty sure he'll keep it real on his son. He might not say anything, you know, but he's not going to bullshit because that was just fucking blatant. And his son looked like a fucking bitch, you know, by doing that. I mean, literally, like, you fucking took the guy's hand in an apology. Like, these are sort of man codes that, like, you got to fucking know by now, dude. But that's what you see. You see complete reactions instead of these positions. Like, if you shook the guy's hand in an apology and then you hear your live stream calling you a bitch, this and that, like, you got to be able to say, well, listen, like, you got to say what you want. Like, I took the guy's apologies already. Like, there's certain just rules and codes that we live by, right, that separate us from being fucking animals, right? There's time to do animalistic type shit. This ain't one of them, right? So let's go to number 9. There's a difference. what was it? Jamie writes, at a junior high school in Toronto back in the 80s, a white kid stabbed a black kid's nose off his face with a fork because the black kid picked on him every day. It is only understandable when we accept that the white kid was a retard, right? Right. Then it makes sense, right? Yeah, there are just so many examples of people having an emotional reaction. I have too many to name, some of which, like, I don't know if I could just, I don't know if the statute of limitations passed. But let's just say I am a product of my experiences, right? So that being said, let's go on to number 9. There's a difference between being ready to die and ready to be killed. During the TV show Vikings, and Vikings, like, it's like, yeah, you like seeing there's more violence on it and stuff and subject material that I enjoy watching, but it was pretty gay when all things are considered. But there was this great like arc, this character arc of this old man, and during the gathering, of the community, the all thing. He asked that even though he was older than the Raiders were, right? The Vikings were, meaning the ones that went to go take shit. He wanted to be included because he said, as throughout his life, he's been on many raids and he's never gotten the ability or the privilege to die on the battlefield so that Odin would take him to Valhalla. And he made this whole thing, and a couple of guys were busting his balls, but Ragnar, who was the guy at the time, said, "Okay, yeah, you can come with us." And the guy wound up dying, and like right before he died, the guy smiled, and it was such a great thing because even you look at the story, the mythology of Valhalla and dying on the battlefield. It's like you don't, number one, you don't get rewarded being the guy who never got killed, right? So it starts off with like, no, you're somebody who's given it all, including your life. But the other thing is, it's dying while fighting. This guy it was a great example, an illustration of this point, because if he wanted to go to Valhalla and all you had to do was die in the battlefield, like he could just go and like wait for somebody to stab him and let him stab him. But that's not how you do it, right? So you have to continue to try and not die. So there's a point where being ready to die is a commentary on commitment, whereas being ready to be killed is much more connected to quitting. It's connected. It's why I call people who kill themselves quitters. So there's a difference to be made, and there are a lot of people who think, at some point you're just supposed to give up, and because rationally, that's what the information's telling you. And it's like to reduce your life to what you're rationally able to process is an incredible reduction of all the life you have available to live, both in length and depth, right? So the last one I have here, nature loves you, but only the way nature can. Nature loves you, but only the way nature can. I'm going to remove that since we're on the last one. All right, there you go. Look at me, all techie. So this isn't to be confused with nature loves you, but in a way only nature can. It's like, no. Nature can only love you this way. But there are other things that can love you this way. So it's not nature has an exclusive way of loving you, but the way that it loves you is the only way it can love you. So what do I mean? It gives you the same physics as everything else. It gives you the same magic as everything else. When we're dealing with the world, there's a certain point. Now, again, here goes my, Princess Bride reference. You want to be a man of action, right? Dread Pirate Roberts, we are men of action. Lies do not become of us. It's this idea that we don't have to play the game. We don't have to, role play or operate behind the facade and pretend we don't notice it's there. There's a certain point where we could just understand, we can keep it real. which means something literally, right? We don't want to just sit there and think that there's a reality that we're entitled to. And the reality that we're subjected to is somehow influenced by our desires for what it's supposed to give us. That's not the way the world works. It's not the way the universe works. It's not the way nature works. Nature will give you the same physics as somebody else. Sometimes you'll see, those people that get out in safaris to like take pictures with lions and stuff. You hear about people getting mauled. It's like at this point, like, don't these motherfuckers, like, they should have a video at the beginning of these things of people getting killed by these animals so they get it. Like how people still do it is beyond me. But that's what you get. It's like, oh, no, I just want to take a nice picture. Or, oh, look at this bear. I saw this video the other day. I don't know where it was. China, maybe? I don't know. But there's like this whole strip of highway where these bears have become almost trained to feign friendliness to be able to attack people. And they'll pose, and they'll do all these different things because people will throw food at them because they're learning how to adapt to this resource, of people. And people have died as a result of it. Like one dude had said, guy went to go take a picture with the bear and it like pulled him into a ravine and ate him. It's like, yeah, that's what happens. That's just bear doing bear stuff, by the way. Anything that you thought, said, did, expected, felt entitled to, felt owed, like none of that was in a memo to the bear, right? The bear's going to do what bears do. The bear doesn't care about your paperwork. That's not the way it works. So nature loves you, but only the way nature can. All right, guys. Man, I got fired up. I thought we went a long time. Well, we're almost an hour. My voice is almost going. But, man, this is enjoyable. I hope you guys got something out of it. If you guys are not getting my emails, masterchimletter.com. Masterchimletter.com. My mastermind group and everything, links are in the description. But regardless of that, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me every Wednesday. I'll be here next Wednesday. You guys know the deal, at noon. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. I'll see you guys next week. And as always, brothers and sisters, pressure to power.